Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 26 in Be With Me. We're going to ask a question today. What is true wealth? And the title today is True Godliness is Great Wealth. So this is a passage about money. It gets everybody's attention. We've already talked about in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 3 through 5, that the fall of many a pastor is actually profit. And today we're going to turn that to the civilian population and be wary, because the fall of many a civilian is also in money. And so what we're going to look towards today is those who desire to be rich. That is the internal drive of affection that prioritizes money above all else. So we're going to look at those who love money. Money isn't evil. It's the love of money that is. And those who erroneously try to use godliness to get financial gain. And those who turn back at the truth for earthly treasure. So those who make a show of godliness just as a way to become wealthy. So read with me. This is in 1 Timothy chapter 6, one of the best passages about money in the whole Bible. Starting in verse 6. For now there is great gain in godliness with contentment. That's where we get the title that godliness is great wealth. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Wow. So true godliness is great wealth. And fake godliness imitates this, but we're not supposed to be using our supposed godliness to gain wealth. The real gain, the real treasure is the Lord. So not getting wealth is acting like a Christian. Real wealth is being a Christian. So you don't get treasure by making a show of it. So there's this insincerity here. Here today, we want to show that we have the real treasure, the real God, on solid footing. That is the great gain. Knowing Him is to be wealthy. Knowing God is to be wealthy, is to be known by Him, to be found by Him. So the most financially poor Christian is more wealthy in every important way than any Elon Musk or any Saudi sheikh. And any believer would not trade her adoption into the family of God for all the inheritance of a Rockefeller. So remember, it's not wealth or riches that are condemned here. Money is not being condemned. It's the love of money. It's the desire for it. It's the internal motivator. It's seeing money as the highest good and valuating it so high that it ends up being valued so high that we could call it worship. So those who prioritize this love of money, this desire to be rich, are betrayed by their behaviors and show by their behaviors what their faith is really in. So some believers are blessed with riches, but they're also blessed with the burden of stewarding those riches well. So if you're the Lord, who would you rather entrust with the riches of this world rather than Christians that bow their knee to you? So sometimes that happens. It's not a guarantee. So true godliness with contentment itself is great wealth. So there's a curious verse in verse 7. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. So we're leaving with no money. Why is that? Because money, the currency, has no currency in the next world. And in the next world, capital has no capital. So we are leaving this world with something, but let it be the love of God, the relationship with God. Let us possess him rather than a love of money. Let's crave the Lord. Let's love the Lord, desire him, and take him with us when we leave. So let's get God and receive from the Lord all the riches that we have beyond measure. Eternal life, that's priceless. We're never going to die. That's priceless. We're not going to have any more tears, no more suffering, no penalty for sin. You cannot buy this kind of stuff at any price. Being in the family of God, being adopted, and being an heir of the Lord. All right, so let's go over just a couple of principles. A devout life often brings hard work, frugal living, generous giving, abundant provision, and having something left over at the end. But that's not the reason to become a Christian. The reason is to have a relationship with Jesus. He's the treasure. He's the pearl of great price. So don't lose your footing in the faith. Don't stumble where you don't need to, and don't pierce yourself by the false allure of, by the idolatry of, by seeing anything more valuable than the Lord himself. So let's leave here with more than money. Nothing is more valuable than the Lord. He is the treasure. True godliness is the treasure. Gain, the great gain, is getting God. Let's all go get him now, because godliness and being of God is the great wealth. Thanks for listening.